Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, January 8th. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. You can expect mostly sunny skies and cooler air with a high of 58 degrees in San Antonio today. It'll be colder this weekend, and parts of the hill country northwest of San Antonio could see a wintry mix of rain and snow between Saturday night and Sunday night. The first full week of 2021 has had more than its fair share of news, but we've reached Friday. We've had a lot of coverage from the fallout of Wednesday's chaos at the U.S. Capitol. You can read more about that over at expressnews.com, but there are a couple other things you should know. The new strain of the COVID-19 virus considered more contagious has been identified in the Houston area. The case marks the first time the strain has been identified in Texas. Nearly 100 employees at the only oil refinery inside San Antonio city limits and at related operations in the region may be out of work for next month, according to a filing with the Texas Workforce Commission. The company says most workers have been retained, though. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar said he reassigned the almost 2-year-old probe of the shooting deaths of a mother and her 2 daughters to a cold case detective because his department's original investigation was insufficient. Quite frankly, I don't think a full-on effort was made, Salazar said on Thursday of the initial investigation of the deaths of San Antonio hairstylist Nicole Leila Olsen and her daughters Alexa Denise Montes and London Sofia Bribescas. There were some stones left unturned, Salazar told reporters during a media briefing. I'll leave it at that. I can't go too much into detail. He said people absolutely will be held accountable, but declined to specify how, noting more details on that will be available in the near future. Peggy O'Hare has the latest details on the case over at expressnews.com. 17 of the 25 Texas Republicans in Congress objected to counting Electoral College votes for President-elect Joe Biden, virtually all of them pointing to debunked claims of voter fraud and sticking to plans to reject Biden's win. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz also objected to results from Arizona and Pennsylvania as he stuck to calls for an emergency audit of the election results, even as some of the Republican senators dropped their objections after President Donald Trump's supporters stormed the Capitol on Wednesday. Biden's win was certified by both chambers, and Cruz's objections to the Arizona results was shot down in the Senate on a vote of 93-6. We have a list of the 16 Texans in the House who objected to the results and what they have said about their decisions over at expressnews.com. A fallout between partners in a 24-acre master planned community in western Bexar County has led one to file a lawsuit seeking more than $2 billion in damages. Dallas developer George Chip A. Field III has sued partners Bill Knight of Fort Worth for breach of fiduciary duty, alleging Knight and other defendants are holding properties hostage in an effort to renegotiate the terms of their partnership. 70-year-old Field and 80-year-old Knight formed their partnership in 2004 to develop commercial real estate in Texas. Patrick Danner explains why the relationship has soured in his latest article. There were 128 homicides in city limits last year compared to 105 a year earlier, according to preliminary data from the San Antonio Police Department, which cautioned that the figures could change slightly. That makes 2020 the second deadliest year in San Antonio since 1995, when there were 142 homicides in city limits. Still, the year-end total was significantly lower than in 2016, when there were 149 homicides in San Antonio and 20 in unincorporated areas of Bexar County. The per capita homicide rate in 2020 was lower than it once was, with about 8 homicides per 100,000 people. In 2016, that figure was about 10. In 1995, it was 14. Take a look at some of the possible causes and what the city is doing to address the problem in Emily Eaton's latest article. State officials will start distributing most of Texas's vaccine doses next week to a handful of large pharmacies and hospitals, creating vaccination hubs where more people can get a shot quickly, the Department of State Health Services said Thursday. Those hubs will receive about 75% of the state's vaccine allotment next week and could inoculate more than 100,000 people, officials said. Now that more Texans can receive the coronavirus vaccine, our Vaccine Frequently Asked Questions page has what you need to know over at expressnews.com. Next up are your need to know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. There are growing calls on Capitol Hill for removing President Donald Trump from office, as many, including several Texas Democrats, blame him for inciting a violent insurrection attempt Wednesday. For the third day in a row on Thursday, San Antonio set new records for the number of people hospitalized with COVID-19 and for the number of people newly admitted to city hospitals to be treated for the disease caused by the coronavirus. While President Donald Trump's supporters were storming the U.S. Capitol, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz's campaign launched a fundraising text to supporters trumpeting the senator's fight to delay congressional votes that would finalize Trump's loss. We have Ted Cruz's explanation over at expressnews.com. Thousands of low-income Texans have less than a month to find new providers of birth control, cancer screenings, and other non-abortion services as the state moves forward with plans to boot Planned Parenthood from its Medicaid program. State health officials promised that the second dose of the vaccine should be available despite limited supplies that have been distributed at the local level. The Bexar County Sheriff's Office is investigating whether a jail lieutenant broke policy or any laws by attending a pro-Trump rally that turned into an angry mob storming the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday. LaMarcus Aldridge had a game and a season-high 28 points in the Spurs' 118-109 road win Thursday night over the Los Angeles Lakers. Read more about that game over at expressnews.com. 3 new members could be appointed to VIA's Board of Trustees as soon as next week, offering a new and varying perspectives on San Antonio's public transportation. A day after a mob broke into the U.S. Capitol, as lawmakers started the process of confirming President-elect Joe Biden's victory, former Texas House Speaker Joe Strauss said the ensuing chaos showed how fragile our system really is. A Texas attorney who videos appear to show participated in the violent mob that took over the U.S. Capitol Wednesday was terminated by his employer Thursday morning. First-time claims for unemployment benefits jumped in Texas to the highest levels in a month, according to the Labor Department on Thursday. Daniel Bretan, an associate professor of political science at the Texas Lutheran University, writes, Cruz also bears responsibility for what happened in the Capitol Wednesday, and therefore he is no longer fit to serve in the U.S. Senate and represent the people of Texas. You can read his full commentary over at expressnews.com. The Express News editorial board writes, quote, "Those who fomented this darkest of moments in the American story must be held accountable for their actions, pegged forever to their roles in instigating this moment." Wednesday's Capitol rampage was the culmination of the energy that the Tea Party movement unleashed 12 years ago, writes Gilbert Garcia. For all of the shouting about trying to save our country from socialism, however, the insurrection had little to do with ideology. It was all about Trump's cult of personality. Read Gilbert Garcia's full column over at expressnews.com. With 2 dogs of their own and 6 others owned by family members who visit often, Jack and Carol Banowski are well aware that puppy dog nails and wood floors do not play well together. So when it came time to pick the flooring for their new home in Bernie, the couple installed a scratch-resistant faux wood porcelain tile. Tile made to look like wood and other materials is just one tile trend for walks and floors that experts expect to see a lot more of in 2021. Others include encaustic tile made of porcelain and ceramic, the return of hexagonal tile, and tile made of mixed materials including metal and glass. Read Richard A. Marini's latest article to find out which 7 tile trends are coming at you this year. Beyond the Alamo and the Riverwalk, it's places like Woodlawn Lake and Kitty Park that represent San Antonio. We have a roundup of artists whose rendition of Alamo City sites and businesses look and feel just like home over at expressnews.com. Moore and Blue Star Contemporary's Mosaic Teen Art program have had to work in their home studios because of the pandemic, but some of their creations are venturing out across the country. Among San Antonio's best barbecue restaurants, there are 3 new places that opened up in the last year. Find out what they are over at expressnews.com. Did you resolve to spend less this month? We have 4 meals from steak with buttered noodles to chicken and sweet potatoes that will help. A San Antonio resident is $3 million richer from a Texas lottery scratch-off ticket. Burbank High School band director Hector Trevino and the school's wind ensemble took the stage at the Tobin Center on Thursday to record a 30-minute concert that will be showcased at this year's virtual Texas Music Educators Association clinic/convention. And that's all for today. This was your Express Briefing for Friday, January 8th. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a great weekend, everyone.